Clea, it's funny when Maureen posts on a picture of you that I look really happy and great. It's as if for a moment you are my happy and great self, and well, I'm over the hill, seriously. But Maureen didn't mean it that way. It's the way I take it because of the culture that's raised me, praised me only for being 15 and young and happy, and not a self-recognizing woman of 50. I am 50. Hey, Walt, you'd mean something else by this, eh? I hear from Theophroso via Tula that Ephrosyne, my great-grandmother, had not 14 but 16 children, and that 9 of them survived. There's no mention of a faith culture that requires women to be a willing vessel, or that expects men to take sex whenever they wish it. This is just 3 generations back. My great-grandmother was pregnant and 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 pregnant. 14 times, for there were 2 pairs of twins. And of these offspring, she lost 7, only slightly better than a 50% success rate. Think of it. I can barely think of it. Somehow the question of a woman's pleasure in self-recognition, both sexual and intellectual, evaporates in the barrage of sheer labor that must have strobed her corporeal reality for those many years. I can't even imagine if she liked sex or Spiru's returns from the sea. It seems indulgent beyond decency to ask this of history. Given that Nana was the eldest girl and sent away to marry, I can imagine now this displaced her from becoming a lifelong surrogate mother to her many siblings, released her to become devoted to her own offspring. It's hard to imagine Ephrosyne would have schemed to send Demetra away, given her workload. But away she went at the age of 15, and by 50, her 2 surviving children were 26 and 21. Here I am at 50, and my children, so far away from me for just this envelope of exploration, are 19, 15, and 15. Ostensibly, I am more bound to maternality at the same life stage than she was. But I know my access to sexual and intellectual pleasures at 50, and experiencing and examining the relationship to self-recognition is the fuller bounty, the bigger part of this legacy. And in so many concrete terms, my own basic freedom as a woman of history is coiled into this inspired decision by Ephrosyne to send her daughter to marry in a new country. It feels juvenile to recognize some of these things, and yet it has taken me 5 decades to create the required conditions of recognition. As I share them with you now at 15, from your outlooking threshold, I wonder what you'll make of them. A 100 years. Why is 100 years so totemic? At 50, I understood standing at and within the palpable middle of the cycle of 1 full century. My maternal great-grandmother, Amy Sophia née Henson Kausel, 1872 to 1971, had lived to the age of 99. I suppose she imprinted on me the fabled odds of a woman's long life. I'm looking across to the south curve of Ramsey at the red brick hospital where my mother in 1965, aged 33, gave birth for the 4th time, impressively without drugs, to her final child, my younger brother. 2.5 years older, I was convinced from the point she brought him home he was my baby. Apparently, I took him from his crib when he was a few weeks old, when his fontanelle had still not quite formed and closed, trailing his blanket while carrying him down a flight of 13 stairs, with my mother waking mid-heist and freezing her breath in case she should startle me into dropping him. You'd think I'd remember getting scolded and punished, but I don't. I continue to consider him mine. The hospital is ramshackle on the insides now, an empty monument, while the city negotiates how to turn the Lakeview land it stands upon into condominia. But there it remains, my birthplace. When I sit here staring at that geometric red structure in its high skirt of green maple crowns, hooded by a vast eggshell blue sky speckled by the unrepentant chuff smoke of the superstack, I am hearing the lake's waves remind me of my grandmother's arrivals, a transfer which does not end but makes physical all of the displacements and relocations involved in this land taken from indigenous hands. The lake continues to move as an analog of experience, unfixed, full of pollutants and loosed particles of the other elements, the violence of soil dissembling, thought on its floats and dips, life thirst, need for change, need for shore, swimming in the continuum, iron ore as a limit, weeds, dead branch chunks shunted onto lake bottom, scum, soap, excrement of gulls, ducks, geese, crows, plastic, general crud, reflected cumuli, cities, electrical buzz singeing the liquid lake mussel, canoe ribs from early 20th century drownings, and incessantly moving spiritual tentacles of all the indigenous people who lived and were displaced and died here over the many human generations of this lake's realities, so replete with concatenated co-presence that my working idea of one select century gushes open, rushing wide at both its calendar ends into the past and into the future. Long sentences to me give the sense of time that belongs to beyond the pale of a settler's Eurocentric centuries interval. Thank you very much.